Hey family, it's Tasha Marbury prepping. You already know what time it is, baby. Get your drink, pull up. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, we just talk about preparedness. We talk about different things that could happen, crisis, whether those are small or big. Really, I just talk about what me and my family do to give you some kind of hopes, dreams, hopefully to kickstart you with your preparedness journey and your homesteading journey. So get your drink, pull up. I'm just having a little bit of espresso. I know I'm having it in like a little tea thing, but I'm trying something a little different. No creamer, you guys. So maybe I'll share my journey with you guys a little bit later. But anyway, so let's get into it today. I want to just talk about kind of a let's just circle back. You know, this channel, we talk a lot about viruses, about diseases, about different things that are happening in different parts of the country. Some other channels talk about this stuff, some do not. Some folks will say that this is fear, this is not fear, this is you being aware of what's happening around you, so that if something does break off, an outbreak does get bigger, an outbreak does move into the United States, you are kind of already tracking it, and you being just a little bit ahead of things could mean the difference from getting supplies and getting preps and just being smart about everyday life in regards to contracting and getting things, okay? And just understanding that, you know, our borders are wide open. There's a lot of ways for disease to make it in. Obviously, we have international travel. You have a lot of folks that work overseas, come home. You have military troops. You have just a lot of dynamics. You know, you have supply and demand, right? Supplies that come in on cargo ships. And of course, the borders, you have tons of people coming in, for example, the southern borders. So there's a lot of ways that diseases and viruses can make it into our country. And all you have to do is kind of understand those, understand which ones are maybe not super serious, but just to be aware that it's happening. And then obviously knowing the more important, more serious ones, so that if you start hearing certain words, certain buzzwords, certain diseases, you know, hey, this is serious, and you can make moves accordingly. So an update, did a video a few weeks ago on Marburg outbreak, right? That seems to be kind of like this. When I reported, there was about 9 people. There was a big outpouring of support. You know, CDC, they were calling emergency meetings. Who was involved? Everybody was involved to get over there, get the bodies they needed, and get ahead of it. Okay, and so far, at least what is being reported, that for the most part is happening, and it's being contained-ish, right? You know, I read an update, if you will, just maybe a week ago, and it was still reporting 9 people. But then I did dig a little bit further, and I found another report that said the death is actually up to 11. So 2 more people have passed away. It's important because so far, the stat wise, every single person that has caught it, that they actually have a case that's confirmed, has died. So they're keeping it contained-ish, because when it first came out, the numbers were a little bit higher on what they were tracking. You know, that's just sourcing it back and making sure. But then they get real numbers and real cases, and the case number is actually much lower. So there's still a few people that do have it that haven't passed yet, but so far those that have gotten it have passed. So again, numbers aren't huge, nothing to freak out about, but just be aware. Ebola outbreaks or Marburg outbreaks have happened. In various time frames. Ebola has had outbreaks, and most of the time those things are contained and it's okay. Just those are big ticket diseases and viruses, though, that you want to be paying attention. When you hear things like smallpox, when you hear things like Marburg, when you hear things like Ebola, any kind of H fever really is a problem, right? But we've been warned by the elites for a very long time that one of these big bad boys is going to come and bite us in the butt later. And we've been warned so much that some of them very specific, like smallpox is supposed to be a bioterrorism, right? So to me, one day when smallpox comes back, and then it's a bioterrorism, it's not us, it's terrorism is the reason why it gets introduced back into our society, and there's an outbreak. That's just, it's just crazy how they tell us things are going to happen. You know, certain people have warned us, elites have warned us for a very long time about different things, pandemics with timelines. In the next couple years, we're going to have something big, H1N1, bird flu stuff, SARS, you know, smallpox. I mean, you name it. There's just all these ideas of viruses that are going to come back. Another one is measles. Now, you guys, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, right? I've been vaxxed vaccinated my whole life, right? And part of that was, yes, I have a big chunk of my adult life that is military, right? And so we're conditioned that you have to be, vaccinated. We've been stuck, left and right with all types of stuff and who knows what, right? But I would venture that before that, I was a child that got vaccinated for school, things like that. I venture that I, would have continued, I would have had a kid like I do now, right? Who was in public school at some point, right? He's not now, but he was. I venture that I would have moved, still would have moved even without the military. I still would have been a parent that moved towards the whole vaccination is safe and let's do this, it's okay, right? And so I never was anti-vaxxer, I've never had a problem until this last one, and it was because of it moving too fast. It moved way too fast for my liking. I did not like it. And that is what gave all these people pause. Yes, you had the anti-vaxxers, but you had people, a huge millions of people that were not, that just were like, whoa, I don't know a whole lot and I'm not the smartest one in the room. However, I do know that it takes time. It takes tests for years sometimes to ensure that something is safe before you give it to the public. And then furthermore, if people were passing away, dying, it would be taken off and they would start over and they would go back at it with different protocols to hopefully get different results, right? Better results. So not an anti-vaxxer, but what's interesting is just recently there was this huge measles outbreak. Now, what I find interesting is it talks about, this article was sent to me, and then I found it on the internet as well. And I guess there was a religious, I don't know, I don't want to say camp, but some sort of gathering, religious gathering, conference, whatever you want to call it. And 20,000 people, that's how big this event was. 20,000 people were exposed, I guess is the word, to a possible measles outbreak. So there was a measles outbreak. Somebody has measles, and these articles are talking about 20,000 people, were exposed. Now, I don't like this 100% because, first of all, measles, mumps, that vaccine has been around for a very long time, and a lot of people have taken it. It is a normal type of vaccine. It's a very normal vaccine for any children that have ever been in the school system, right? I'm not talking about the percentage of parents who don't use vaccines or families that don't believe in vaccines or whatever the case. I'm not even talking about that. I don't want to argue about that. But what I'm saying is that the article is written as all these people were exposed. But then I thought, well, I wonder what the actual percentage of those people in that group that weren't vaccinated. Like, it can't be super, super high, right? And then I'm like, okay, but it's a religious group. Maybe the numbers are higher. I don't know, but it said exposed. It had no numbers of like actual how many people, how many cases of people had mumps and measles. It will be interesting in the weeks to come to see if they even bring it up again, talk about it again, if they talk about numbers and stats and how many people actually got it out of this 20,000 that they're reporting were exposed to it. If you kept diving deeper, just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, there was an outbreak of measles amongst about 85 children. Again, not huge numbers, but again, it depends on that 85 number. Was it concentrated? Was it a certain area? Like, was that spread out over a bigger area, a few states? So it's hard to determine when you don't have all the facts as far as where the numbers are coming from. But interested to know that this is happening. And then now, a month ago, these 85 children. And again, measles, that vaccine is needed for public schools. So, the numbers obviously for children that go to public schools is much higher than homeschoolers and children that for whatever reason stay home and don't do that stuff and therefore aren't required to have those shots. And so I'm just like, how does 85 children get this? Where do those stats come from? Where did so I just had a lot of questions, which I do. I'm a chick that has questions most of the time. Something happens and then I have questions, and then you might answer the question or I find the answer to the question, but then it makes me think of other questions, right? I want to know, I want to dig in, and so I find it interesting, right? What I would hope, I'll give my 2 cents, right? You're going to do what you want to do for your family. If you've been, it's unfortunate what happened, because you have families who believed in vaccines, did vaccines, and because of the shadiness and the way that this last one was done, it's going to change people's view on trusting the government, trusting when they come out and just say, hey, we have this, trusting even vaccines that have been around forever and have worked and have kept, us safe. You're going to have folks that are going to be not trusting of that and possibly not doing that. And then if you talk about open borders, you talk about international travel, you talk about all the stuff that's coming, these things, we're going to be more susceptible to being exposed to stuff just from living life. And it's not that we weren't exposed to stuff already, but because certain things are happening, I mean, we have droves and droves and droves of people that are coming in and are not being medically screened, right? And I'm not talking about medically screened for COVID. I'm talking about medically screened for all types of infectious diseases because certain things come from different countries. It's no shade. It's no like, how dare you bring, it's none of that. It's just the fact that this stuff is happening. We have a hole, if you will, that is readily open, that diseases have a way to easily come in because they're not being detected. They're not even being remotely tracked or tried to be tracked as folks come in. And so that's the problem. And then you have possibly these big groups where people are exposed. So it's going to be interesting. Read another article, there's a few things going around that are just wonky, off the wall, different diseases. I mean, there's this disease called PAM, which basically is a brain eating disease. And this man in Florida recently got this by washing his face and nose, right? Was trying to like clear out his sinuses and stuff with tap water or whatever, and got this inside of him. There's a whole name for this actual disease and what it's called. I can't say it. I'm not even going to pretend to say it. But if you just Google Florida man that died from, brain eating disease, they'll probably pop right up. It's a onesie twosies. It's a very mild type disease that does happen. It does happen in the United States. They get 4 or 5 people possibly a year that get this. It's not hard to get. You can't pass it from, or it is hard to get. It's very rare, and it's not something that you pass from people. You get it from water. You get it from warm water. But it's interesting. It's also interesting because I hear water and then I hear of Ohio. And so right now my ears are peaked. I'm paying attention extra to water problems, even if they're not remotely sounding like it's related. I'm just paying attention. That way in my mind, I can kind of track in the country where different things are happening that are regarding water, especially if they're rare things that aren't happening. And because when chemicals get into the water, we have no idea how that stuff reacts to either other chemicals, other enzymes, other things in the water, just different things, right? And then, not to mention, we're already worried about chemicals in general, us, drinking them, folks are drinking them. But you have no idea the different types of mixtures and those mixtures and what they can awaken, right? And then we're exposed to stuff. So it's never been more important to treat your water at a minimum, running it through some sort of home filtering system at a minimum. I'm not saying everybody should be boiling the water, but let me tell you, baby, if I was on the East Coast, and I had done my first of all, I would have done my research to figure out what my threat level is to the Ohio thing that happened, right? So I'm not saying boil water, but I'm telling you right now, depending on the situation, just anybody every day, right? Even where I'm at, wherever you're at, it doesn't matter. Filtering should be an everyday thing for you and your family. You should get used to that right now. Buy you or make a large water filtering system. Start using it daily. That is important to make that a norm in your family, okay? And make it aware to your children the importance of filtering water, right? And then you can go into the other things when things happen or that threat level gets raised for whatever reason. Then you can move to, boiling and or actually treating the water after you've filtered it. Let's see. So just a few different things. I pay attention to disease and viruses. I'd love to hear in the comments below if there's anything that you're hearing on the streets. Understanding to have been happening, valley fever is still happening, bird flu is just still happening. So there's a few different things still happening kind of in our country. It's just important to kind of be aware of your surroundings, things that are happening, And it's important. I don't care what people say. It is very important for you to understand internationally what is happening. Yes, folks can all day long be like, oh yeah, Marburg, 11 people died, Africa, don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't matter because it's not here. People are not dying here. What I find interesting though is when an outbreak actually comes here and people start freaking out and they're like, right? And it's like, you could have been prepared. You could have just been paying attention if you had your eyes open and just realized that, hey, there's things that are happening in the world that absolutely could make it to your doorstep, right? Scary stuff that could make it to your doorstep. And you being aware could be the difference. You being aware could be the difference of you being able to go to the store, get your PPE, get stockpiled on medicines, medical supplies, different things that are needed. Instead of being like we were during COVID when everybody and their mother was freaking out trying to get basic stuff. People were freaking out trying to get basic masks, gloves, suits, whatever, sanitizer, cleaners, bleaches, just your basic stuff. People were freaking out trying to get, okay? And so, yes, we stockpile food, water, meds. You've got to get the things, you know, get your Chase case. If you haven't yet, your antibiotics case, budget that, you know, if that's too much money, get that budget and you've got to get that. Get your PPE, get your pandemic type preps, you know, really it's just being ready for a medical emergency, right? Viruses, diseases, medical emergencies, treating the symptoms. What are the symptoms that happen with these diseases? And therefore stockpile those things, right? Get those meds into your home pharmacy, right? It's just super important because you knowing these things helps you get ahead of things. And then when things break out, you're not the one freaking out talking about, I don't have any gloves. I need gloves. I need rubber gloves. And you're freaking out, can't find any. Amazon starts shutting down their stores as far as, no, you have to be a medical person to be able to order, right? We all went through it. So get the things that you need. Use the COVID experience to help you fine tune truly what you need, because some of those things you possibly didn't need. Fine tune what you really need and get those things, right? Think about if it was a step worse, right? Something more serious, what you would need. Get those things, get those medicines, get holistic medicines, read a book and understand that cultures and other people, ancestors have treated some of these medicines, some of these outbreaks with certain medicines that come from plants and trees. Understand that information, get that and order that. You can order medicine in so many types of ways, capsules, liquids, you name it, right? Get that stuff that people have already pulled from the plant holistically and get it, right? Get the plants yourself and start growing them and add that to your medicinal and your get well gardens that you're starting in your home and around your home and inside your home, right? The whole point is to get ahead. It's not to scare you like, oh, there's not these outbreaks. No, it's so that you can make real decisions, real life decisions on what you and your family are going to do and what is your priorities as far as preparedness and being ready for different things that might come to your doorstep. Okay, so I hope you guys have a great weekend. We're going to get into a few things here. I just will see you guys next week on the next video. Take care. Bye.